Hello. What we're going to see today is a topic called variables and constants in C. Let's see how does variables and constants are used in C language and what is their importance in problem solving approaches. So let's go ahead and look into it. Well, then in that case, the topic that is discussed now is variables and constants in C. So what is a variable and what is a constant? Basically, after having an idea about data types, it becomes inevitable for all of us to look into data in terms of two views. One is data which is expected to be remained as constant, and the other data which needs to be modified over a period of time. So therefore, how does it gets distinguished in C? So there are two types of data used in programming. One is variables and the other is constants. As the name says, variable is a data item that might undergo modification during program execution. The value held by a variable can be changed. So that's why the name variable. So a variable name can be chosen by a programmer in any meaningful way that suits the program that you're going to talk about. So there are certain rules C language imposes for variables to be named. So therefore the rules include variable names may consist of letters, digits and underscore. First character must be an alphabet or an underscore. Length of the variable cannot exceed up to 8, but certain compilers leave it up to 31 characters. White spaces are not allowed. No other special characters are allowed. Variable names must not be a keyword, and there is a distinction between the uppercase and the lowercase equivalents because all of us know that C is a case-sensitive language. Exactly. So let's check a few valid and invalid examples which support this concept called variables. So yeah, the first one that we have seen is mark. Mark is a valid example because it is not a constant. It just has a characters. The next one is someone. Tote underscore value, the only special symbol allowed is underscore, and next one is Delhi. So all these are the valid variable names that language C supports. Then coming back to the concept of invalid variable names, anything which is a data type or anything which is a keyword. Example here, char is a keyword, so it can't be used as a variable name. So therefore this is invalid. Next, the only special character allowed is underscore. So here we are finding one called as space, which is also not allowed. So therefore group 1 is not allowed because it uses a special character called space, which is not valid. The next one is as usual, as I said, price dollar. This is also not allowed since dollar also belongs to a class of non-accepted list. So therefore this is also invalid. Another example, few more examples are if a variable name starts with a number, say example 1, 2, 3 count. That is wrong because 1 is a number. You can't start your variable name with a number. So that's also wrong. So this is about the variable naming. Then coming back to the very important topic, if I want one data item to hold up to a particular value, then obviously they needs to be declared to the computer in a C program. So therefore the compiler of the C language expects the variables to be declared before you start executing or before we start using those variables in our problem solving. So therefore, what is the reason for which variable needs to be declared? A variable needs to be declared essentially to allocate storage, and also it needs to be declared to make it known to the compiler that this is what is going to be used in other words, to make an entry into symbol table. Okay. So let's go ahead and see what is the syntax for declaring a variable. The syntax is data type, name of the variable, semicolon. So example int x, semicolon. And if you want to declare multiple variables, then you have to write data type space, variable name 1, comma, variable name 2, comma, so on, variable name n. For example, int, as you see on the screen, int number, comma, total. Okay. So let's move to the next one, initialization of variables. What is called initialization? Initialization is a process of storing or giving a value, startup value to a particular data item. So if you want your data item to start with a specific value, or if at times you want your data item to not store garbage, then the way that we use is initialization. Initialization is the process of giving a startup value or a default value to a data item or a variable. So therefore, how are the variables initialized in C? The variables are initialized in multiple ways. One of the way is during declaration. Yes, in C, variables can be initialized during declaration. This is one of the example. Int x, is equal to 45. So now on x takes the value 45. What if I want to initialize multiple values? You can do it same with initialization process. You can write like int x equal to 1, y is equal to 2, comma z is equal to 3, comma x is equal to 4, p is equal to 5, semicolon. So this is how you declare multiple values and then initialize. On the other hand, is there any other way of initializing multiple values together? Yes. Suppose I have 3 variables x, y, and z, and I want all of them to take a startup value 0. Then all of us can do it by writing int x, comma y, comma z, and then in the second line you can write x is equal to, y is equal to, z is equal to 0. So this is another way of using this concept called as initialization, which at times people also called as assignment, but makes the same sense. So let's move to the next topic. When I say some data item to be moving, to be holding random values at random times of execution, obviously there comes another data items which remain their values, which have the ability to hold their values for a large amount throughout their program executions. So data items whose value remains same, whose value remains fixed throughout program execution, or in other words, data items which do not support any kind of modifications to their values are known as constants in C. So how do I shortly call a constant as? Constant is something whose value is fixed. In simple, this is it. Constant is something whose value is fixed. So there are different types of constant C language supports. So first of all, let us take a look into what is constants. Constant is the most fundamental and essential part of C language. Its value remains the same throughout the execution of the program. It is generally customary to write constants in uppercase. Generally, it's a general practice, not a fixed practice. It's a general practice that people write it with capital letters. Constants can be of any data types. You can have any kinds of constants. So once we have gone to a topic called as any type, then it's time for us to see the types of constants. They are numeric constants and character constants. So numeric constants are again divided into integer constants. Integer constants have their own subclasses. Then the real constants and the character constants are single character constants and string constants. So as we go, before we proceed further, we'll just stop here for a while and just check out how does this work. Okay, so have a look at this picture. This is what you got to write. Constants into two types, numeric and character. Integer constants and real constants comes under numeric. Character constants will have string constants and single character constants. So we'll just proceed now. Types of constants: integer, real, character, and string we have seen just now. So what are integer constants? Integer constants refers to a sequence of digits. There are again so many types of integer constants. One is integer constant, decimal constants. The next one is long integer constants, octal constants, and hexadecimal constants. If I suppose take up a number 7, we all know that 7 is a number which is there in octal number system. 7 is a number which is there in decimal number system, and 7 is also a number which is also available in hexadecimal number system. So my dear friends, how do we differentiate between 7 in this case? If I want 7 to be octal, how do I ensure that whatever I write is an octal number? So there is a distinction that the compiler allows to differentiate between various constants available. So preceded by a 0, that means if I write 07, 034, example in this case, 07, 037, 0345, 0661, in this case, yes, you precede it with a 0, it becomes an octal constant. You precede it with 0x, it becomes a hexadecimal constant, and you just like that write it, it becomes a normal decimal constant or an integer constant. Then how do I differentiate between an integer and a long integer constant? For example, 10 is a number which is there both as an integer. I can also read 10 as long integer. No problem. Then how do I differentiate? The long integer constants are suffixed with capital L. So if I want my machine to understand 10 as a long integer constant, then I got to write it as 10 and capital L. 10. Well, then comes real constants. Real constants are x point y type of numbers, the fractional numbers which we call. Example, plus 325.34, minus 332.67, etc. Single character constant is one character, any character enclosed in single quotes. Your space is a character, comma is a character, full stop is a character, 5 is a character, question mark is a character, A, B, C, D. Anything is a character. So in C, anything is treated as a character. So any character enclosed in single quotes becomes single character constants. More of this we'll learn in a concept called as strings. So we'll get back to string constants. How do you define a string constant? So string constant is something where a group of characters are enclosed in double quotes. Examples are double quotes hello, double quotes XYZ in capital, double quotes 1, 2, 3, 4, and double quotes some set of symbols, or double quote a large amount of space. Anything of this class is a string constant. Okay, then we'll see about something called as backslash character constants. What are backslash character constants? There are certain predefined constants available in language C, supported by language C, which are used to modify your output in a prescribed format. The most commonly used backslash constants are /n and /t, which we always keep using. So /n and /t are the most commonly used backslash constants, and there's another way of writing constants in C. One is by using the hash define, which we already know, and the second one is using a keyword called const, or the third one is by directly writing off the value. Example, if I want to write area of a circle, then I write, instead of writing pi, I write 3.142. So direct substitution is method 1, using hash define is method 2, and using const keyword is method 3. And this const is a keyword qualifier which is used to ensure that any data type that you declare becomes a constant or only becomes a readable value. Okay, so on that note, let's take this simple program and see what's the difference between a constant and a variable that we are talking about. So here x is a variable because I wrote it by writing int x, and this is hash define, another way of defining a constant by using hash define, and here comes the usage of the keyword called const. Okay, so here I just declared a variable, I did not initialize it. Let's see what happens. So x, y, and z are 3 values of my program. So we'll see what happens to x, y, and z. The only thing that needs to be understood is x is not initialized. What happens if x is not initialized? As you can see on the screen, it stores garbage, whereas y stores 10 and z stores 20. So now let's get back and see. Let's initialize x. Let's initialize x to store some value. Say I initialized x with 100. Okay, and let's try to see what happens if I try to give a new value for y. Y is a constant. It is only a read-only value. I'm trying to write it again. Let's see what does it say. So yes, Alt F save. While it shows an error called cannot modify the object. So that's it. You cannot modify because it is a constant. So understood the value, the difference of a variable versus constant. So through this small example, I would want you to understand that there is a difference between variables and constants, and that's what it is. Now when x is initialized, x stores 100, y stores 10, and z stores 20. So on this note, it's thank you.